After I asked about a missing bonus, my boss laughed. "You're lucky we even keep you around. Bonuses are for people who actually make a difference." I nodded calmly, gathered 3 years' worth of evidence that I had been promised bonuses in writing, and filed a wage theft complaint. HR settled with me quietly. And he got escorted out during lunch hour, still screaming that it was unfair. I'm not the type who causes drama. I show up to work, do what's asked of me, and go home. That's always been my way. I never saw myself as someone who'd ever report anyone, let alone tear down a whole manager. But 3 years of getting strung along changes a person. Especially when the lies are stacked that high. I worked for a company in Akron, Ohio that made parts for air conditioning systems, duct pieces, coils, all that stuff. Not glamorous, but steady work. I was a process planner, which meant I organized production runs, tracked materials, and made sure schedules got met. If I missed something, the floor would grind to a halt. But if everything ran smoothly? Nobody noticed. My boss, Dean, noticed just enough to take credit, but not enough to give it. He ran the department like it was his personal kingdom. He wasn't awful at his job, but he liked being in charge a little too much. He liked to make people sweat. He didn't raise his voice, didn't curse. Just always had a way of making you feel small. Dean told me during my onboarding, this was 3 years ago, that bonuses were given out every year. Not guaranteed, but based on performance and numbers. He said, if you keep doing what you're doing, you'll see a little extra every March. I nodded. Honestly, that was one of the reasons I stayed. The salary wasn't great, but I figured the bonus would make up for it. That first year, I worked my ass off. Never missed a day. Stayed late when needed. Picked up extra reports no one else wanted. March came. No bonus. When I asked, Dean gave me this look like I'd asked for his car keys. He said, the margins were too tight this year. You did fine, don't take it personally. I didn't push. Figured maybe next year. Year 2, I saved the company serious money. Found a recurring mistake in the material order sheets that had been going on for months. Brought it up in a team meeting. Dean took it and ran with it like it was his find. He even got an email from the director thanking him for catching it. I just smiled. Thought maybe, this time, I'd see something in return. March came again. No bonus. No mention. I brought it up casually. Hey, just wondering if the bonus review happened? Dean barely looked up from his screen. Yeah, numbers didn't quite make it again. Sorry. Next year. 3rd year? I should have known better, but I didn't stop working hard. Helped launch a new scheduling tool. Trained the floor supervisors how to use it. Got flagged in 2 different meetings by managers from other departments as someone who was going above and beyond. Still, nothing. So this time, I asked again. I waited until a Monday morning when he wasn't swamped. Stepped into his office and said, Dean, I wanted to ask about the bonus. I was told during hiring it was tied to metrics, and from what I've seen, I've met or exceeded them. Just wondering if I was considered. That's when it happened. Dean leaned back in his chair, gave this long sigh like I was bothering him, then let out a small laugh. He said, you're lucky we even keep you around. Bonuses are for people who actually make a difference. Just like that. No shame. No hesitation. I stood there for a second. Not angry, blank. Like I couldn't even process what I heard. Then I just nodded. Got it. I turned around, walked out, and sat back at my desk. But something had changed. That laugh? That sentence? It burned into my brain like a scar. 3 years of extra effort. 3 years of picking up slack, of staying late, of hearing Dean take credit for my work, and now I was being told I was lucky they even kept me? That was the last straw. I didn't confront him. Didn't email anyone. Didn't raise my voice. I opened up my Outlook and started digging. I typed bonus in the search bar. I found the first promise from him in my 90-day review. Strong start, keep this up and you'll definitely be in the bonus pool next March. I found another from year 2, your numbers are where we want them, and bonus talks will happen in March. Keep up the momentum. There were more. Slack messages. Quick, let's talk bonus, calendar invites. Mentions and performance reviews. Even a department memo from corporate 2 years ago that stated all eligible full-time employees in good standing will be considered for annual performance-based bonuses. And every single year? I had no write-ups. No warnings. Nothing but praise. I compiled it all. Took screenshots, saved PDFs, printed out policy statements. Then I reached out to a wage and hour attorney based out of Cleveland. A friend of mine had used her firm when his last job tried to claw back commissions. She took a look and said, "Yeah, this is wage theft. You've got clear, repeated promises, and they've withheld it without cause. You're owed." So I contacted HR and asked for a private meeting. Didn't want to make a scene. Just wanted things documented. Angela from HR met with me in a side conference room. I handed her the file, walked her through it step by step. She didn't say much. Her face told me everything I needed to know. She kept flipping pages like she couldn't believe what she was reading. "I'll escalate this," she said quietly. I thanked her and went back to work like nothing had happened. 2 weeks later, I got a message from her. Said they were settling. I'd be compensated for the 3 years, with a small penalty. No admission of wrongdoing, but full payout. She said, "We take this seriously. We'll be making internal changes." I didn't ask what that meant. But I found out soon enough. It happened on a Thursday. I was in the break room, microwaving leftovers, when 2 security guys walked past the glass. With them was Rob, the plant manager. They went straight into Dean's office. You could feel the tension in the air. 10 minutes later, the door burst open and Dean came out red-faced, yelling loud enough for everyone to hear. "This is ridiculous. I gave everything to this place." He knocked over a chair on the way out. Security stayed calm, walked on either side of him as he stomped out like a toddler throwing a tantrum. People stared but didn't say anything. Once he was gone, there was this weird silence in the office. Then someone down the hall just muttered, "Finally." I sat at my desk. Didn't say a word. But inside? I felt something shift. And that's when things started to change. The office felt different after Dean was gone. Not louder or quieter, just less tense. Like we'd all been holding our breath without realizing it. People didn't come right out and say his name, but the gossip was everywhere. Some guessed he was caught fudging numbers. Others thought he finally crossed the line with HR. Nobody really knew what happened. Except me. Angela from HR gave me one simple instruction after the settlement: keep things confidential. And I did. Even when people joked about Dean finally getting what he deserved, I just nodded and kept my mouth shut. But just because Dean was out didn't mean the problems ended. 2 weeks after he was walked out, we got a new interim manager, Tracy. She was sharp, no nonsense, transferred in from our branch in Dayton. People liked her well enough. She actually asked questions, gave credit, and didn't talk down to anyone. But then she called me into her office for a one-on-one. "I know things have been rough," she said. "And I'm not here to dredge up the past, but you should know something. There's a bit of heat coming down from upstairs about what happened with Dean." I kept my expression still. "I'm not sure what you mean." She tapped her fingers on the desk. "There are rumors. Not here, higher up. People asking why it wasn't flagged sooner. Why someone like you didn't escalate it before taking legal action." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Now I was being questioned? I said, "I followed internal policy. I spoke to HR privately. It was handled through the right channels. She nodded. I know. I'm not saying you did anything wrong. But you should be careful. Sometimes when you stir things up, people don't like the mess it leaves behind. That stuck with me. Be careful. Like I'd started a fire and now they were watching me for smoke. It wasn't a direct threat, but it felt like one. I kept my head down again. Tried to stay invisible. But a week later, I noticed something strange. Projects I was normally trusted with were going to others. Meetings I used to lead? Suddenly rescheduled or cut entirely. My name started getting left off emails where it used to be included. At first I thought it was in my head. Maybe they were just reorganizing. But then I got an invite to a performance review, 2 months early. Angela was there. So was Tracy. They smiled too much. Used soft words. But the message was clear: your attitude has shifted. There's concern about team cohesion. You've been withdrawn. I kept it together during the meeting, but I walked out knowing exactly what they were doing. They weren't firing me, but they were building a case to push me out. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. So I started documenting everything again. Emails. Calendar changes. Project assignments that were reassigned with no explanation. Even Slack messages that seemed neutral but told a different story when read together. One message from a senior planner, Mike, stood out. He wrote, "You really stirred the pot, huh? I'd lay low if I were you." He didn't mean it in a cruel way. Just like advice. But it told me one thing: people were talking. And not in a good way. I didn't start this to ruin anyone's life. I just wanted what I earned. But now that they were trying to paint me as the problem? Now it was personal. And this time I wasn't just going to HR. The signs that they were pushing me out weren't just subtle anymore, they were deliberate. Tracy stopped replying to my emails unless I looped in someone above her. I'd sent her a question about a scheduling issue, crickets. But if I CC'd Rob, the plant manager, I'd get a reply in 10 minutes. She was playing a game, and I wasn't stupid. One morning, I came in and found that someone had cleared off my whiteboard. All my planning notes, numbers, timelines, erased. No explanation. I asked around. No one knew who did it. That same week, IT accidentally locked me out of the shared drive for 2 full days. I couldn't access files I'd personally created. I had to ask coworkers to email me documents I'd built from scratch. It was humiliating. Then came the write-up. Angela called me into HR again, with Tracy already in the room. They handed me a typed document. Failure to communicate project status in a timely manner. I stared at it. This project was reassigned from me. I didn't even touch it. Angela didn't make eye contact. Tracy said, "It's a documentation formality. Just needs your signature." I refused. I told them if they wanted to discipline me, they'd better have proof. I walked out without signing anything. That's when I decided to stop playing defense. I reached back out to my lawyer. Gave her the full update. I told her about the retaliation, because that's what it was. Quiet, creeping retaliation. Not enough to fire me. Just enough to make me want to leave. She agreed. Said she'd seen this pattern before. They want to make you quit so they don't have to pay unemployment or risk another legal complaint. She helped me start a formal retaliation claim with the Department of Labor. It would take time, but I had everything documented. In the meantime, I kept working. But then something new happened. Something I didn't expect. One of Dean's old drinking buddies, another manager named Carl, reached out to me on LinkedIn. We'd never really talked before. Just nods in the hallway. But his message was weird. "You should know, Dean's not done. He's been talking to folks at your company. Claims he has proof the bonus policy was never meant to include process planners. Said you blackmailed HR. I just sat there, reading it over and over. Dean had been gone for over a month, but now he was trying to spin the narrative. I guess he couldn't handle getting fired by someone he thought was beneath him. And now he was talking to my coworkers? Trying to poison the well? I didn't reply right away. Instead, I checked my calendar. I had a one-on-one with Rob, the plant manager, later that day. I decided to confront this head-on. When I walked into Rob's office, he greeted me like normal. I didn't waste time. I've heard Dean's been reaching out to people here, I said. Claiming I blackmailed HR. You should know that's not true. And I'm filing a retaliation claim. His face changed instantly. The friendliness vanished. He leaned back. I don't know who you're talking to, but I haven't heard anything like that. It was a lie. I could tell. His eyes shifted, just enough. So I said, look. If this company wants to push me out, go ahead and say it. But I have 3 years of documented performance, and now a retaliation file building by the day. If Dean keeps dragging my name through the mud, I'll open a defamation claim, too. Rob didn't say anything at first. Then he said something that made my stomach turn. This place doesn't need people who cause division. I laughed. Right there in his office. Division? I said. You mean people who stand up for themselves? I didn't lie. I didn't threaten anyone. I asked for what I was promised. And instead of fixing it quietly, you all tried to bury it. He didn't reply. I left his office and went straight back to my desk. That night, I started printing copies of everything again. Every file. Every email. Every note. I was going to be ready. Because this wasn't about a bonus anymore. This was war. The day I knew things were coming to a head was the day someone broke into my desk drawer. I came in one morning, reached to grab my planner, and noticed the lock was scratched. The inside had been rifled through. My backup flash drive was missing. That drive had all the same files I already shared with my lawyer, but the fact someone wanted it told me everything. This wasn't just petty office games anymore. This was desperate. I didn't say anything. I just sat down, opened my browser, and finished uploading every last file to a secure drive my lawyer gave me. I added the desk break-in to my retaliation log. I called IT from my desk and told them someone had accessed my user profile after hours. I asked for a full report of login history. IT said they'd look into it. I didn't expect much. But 3 days later, I got called into HR again. Angela looked tired. Tracy was already in the room, sitting stiffly. Angela opened with, "We've received a formal concern that you've created a hostile environment, and that your presence is negatively impacting your team." I laughed, loudly this time. "You mean people are uncomfortable because I didn't let your last manager steal my bonuses for 3 years?" Angela sighed. "This is just part of the investigation." I asked her one question. "Are you aware that Dean has been contacting employees here? That he's accusing me of blackmailing HR?" Her face went blank. I leaned forward. "Because I have screenshots. And if you're letting a terminated manager poison the team, while punishing me for speaking up, that's not just retaliation anymore, that's corporate negligence." That got her attention. Tracy didn't say a word. I walked out, sent a summary of the conversation to my lawyer, and then, on her advice, I filed one final internal report. But I didn't stop there. I sent an official complaint to the Ohio Department of Commerce's Wage and Hour Division, and another to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission for retaliation and hostile work environment. I named names. I included files. What happened next took a month to unfold, but it exploded like a grenade. I was called into the break room on a random Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. The regional director was standing at the front, along with a man I'd never seen before, a corporate investigator. Every salaried employee had to sit in. They announced that the company was under a full internal audit, triggered by a whistleblower complaint regarding wage theft, retaliation, and toxic management practices. They didn't say my name, but I knew. Everyone knew. They handed out packets with instructions on how to confidentially report prior issues, no matter how long ago they happened. What I didn't expect was what came after. A week later, Tracy was suspended pending investigation. The week after that, Angela resigned for personal reasons. Then the big one dropped. Rob, the plant manager, was escorted out just like Dean had been. Only this time, it wasn't quiet. Apparently, the IT department had found after-hours login attempts, coming from Rob's office. He'd used his clearance to try and access my files. They couldn't spin that. Turns out, Dean had been talking to Rob and a few others. They tried to dig into me. Tried to create a case to push me out quietly before the bonuses issue went public. The company caught them red-handed. And that wasn't all. The internal audit found that 5 other employees had been misled about bonus eligibility. One woman in shipping had gone 5 years without seeing hers, despite performance reviews that clearly said she was in the top 10%. Another planner had left last year after getting told she wasn't senior enough. HR had buried it all. So corporate fired the entire local HR team. All of them. Angela, her assistant, and even the guy in payroll who didn't know how bonuses were calculated. A month after that, I got a letter from corporate legal. They weren't just settling with me anymore. They were offering me a job. Director of Operations Planning, same location, better pay, direct line to corporate. They didn't say it outright, but the message was clear: you stood up. You didn't back down. You held us accountable. I took the offer, but I negotiated a few things first. I asked for guaranteed back pay with interest for the 5 other employees who were denied bonuses. I wanted that in writing. I also requested a private apology be issued to each of them, acknowledging what had happened. And finally, I asked that Dean's name be blacklisted from all rehire databases at the company. They agreed to all of it. As for Dean, he tried to sue the company for wrongful termination. It didn't go well. The company countersued for breach of NDA and slander after they discovered the emails he sent to current employees while under investigation. He lost the case and was ordered to pay $35,000 in damages. I later heard he was working in a warehouse outside Toledo. Tracy went silent after her firing. No LinkedIn updates. Nothing. Rob? He tried to spin it as a political firing, but everyone knew. One guy from the shop floor told me Rob had cornered him in the parking lot, demanding to know if he'd ratted. Nobody did. The evidence spoke for itself. And me? I kept the new job for another year. Then I left on my terms. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to prove something. You can stay quiet for years. You can take the hits, let people step over you, stay patient. But once you decide to speak up, really speak up, you better come with the receipts. And if they still try to bury you? You burn the whole damn system down, quietly, legally, and piece by piece.